All right. Hello again, and welcome to another episode of the Fun Fans Podcast. I'm your host, James Dillard. With me, as always, my co-host, Bailey Jackson. How you doing, Bailey?
I'm good. Hope everybody out there's having a great weekend and get ready to go back to work.
Getting ready to go back to work tomorrow. We have a great show. We're going to catch up on some fun for the past 2 weeks. We're going to talk about Bailey's experience at the Wake Forest game. We're going to talk about, obviously, this past week of college football, and then our plans a little bit for the noon home kickoff this Saturday versus Virginia. But first, the Fun Fans are a proud part of the Fanboys Fangirls Sports Podcasting Network. If you're a true sports fan, the Fanboys Fangirls is perfect for you. Find various nationwide podcasts and other sports media at thefanboys.com and all forms of social media. The Fun Fans are the official podcast for Clemson fans.
Yeah, and so Rubens is the official place to eat for the fun fans.
That's right.
They have the best wings around. I highly recommend the what's the name of the flavor that we like?
I like the original
Yes.
mild molasses
Yeah,
based.
I may go with a little kick in there, a little medium molasses, but two locations in the upstate, 1083 Batesville Road in Greer, 11028 Anderson Road in Piedmont, South Carolina. You can find them at rubensc.com. Rubens is simply a great place to eat, and we appreciate their support.
The Fun Fans also now brought to you by Ivy O'Sullivan Healthcare Services. At Ivy O'Sullivan, they're more than just chiropractors. Since 1977, this family-owned business located in downtown Spartanburg has been helping people with techniques other than the typical twisting and popping that can sometimes make people nervous about trying a chiropractor. I've been a patient my entire life, and I take my own children there as well. If you have an ache or pain, give Ivy O'Sullivan Healthcare a try. And if you mention the Fun Fans podcast, they will donate 100% of your initial evaluation cost to their charity of the month. So call them at 864-583-3967 or find them at ivyosullivan.com to feel better and function at your best. Okay, one last disclaimer. I am still, first world problems, not complaining because we're really blessed after the hurricane came through, especially compared to a lot of our neighbors, and especially neighbors when you talk about across the state line into North Carolina. But we are operating off of a hot spot, and that thing seems to sometimes want to be hot and sometimes want to be not. So we're gonna do the best we can, and if something happens, then we'll roll with the punches. But since we are catching up due to the hurricane, we didn't have a show. And then last week we spent the entire show hopefully helping some folks out. If you want to be part of the help, go back and find last week's show. We had people that live in it and with boots on the ground, and they were recommending where you might want to send your donations or donate your money versus just seeing something on social media or whatever. So that was the idea behind that show. But let's go back and do what we normally do, at least just for a second. Talk about the fun part of the games and the tailgate. So that would take us all the way back to the Stanford game. Bailey, do you remember? We remember the Stanford game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. We had a lot of guests at the tailgate, full-fledged tailgate. It was a night game. So that was cool. We had plenty of time. And everybody was talking about how good the burgers were. And what they didn't know, which was, it was perfectly fine. It was a lot of the power was out in certain areas. So sent my daughter Jalen to grab whatever they have that's already patted out.
Right.
And she brought back the burgers, and they were really good because they were beef and pork burgers. So you throw a little bit of the ham in there, and that just gives it a little extra flavor, I reckon.
I guess. We had some hot dogs too.
Had some hot dogs because they were in a freezer that wasn't working or something, right?
Yeah.
So Bailey brought those, and so that was great. It was a good tailgate, and it all got going. We had a good group come by, and we appreciate them doing that, and they're always welcome. We also, every Stanford fan that walked by, we talked to every one of them.
Yep.
We thanked them for coming, and I kept asking them what part of California they were from, and it was like Virginia,
right,
and
Tennessee,
Raleigh.
We live in Charlotte.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
I went to Stanford, but we live in Charlotte.
Right. So we should set a goal next year to go to Stanford, and we may be at least one of the few folks that went all the way from the East Coast to that game. Hopefully a lot of Clemson folks out west obviously will go to that game and all, but that was pretty interesting, and they were really nice, and hopefully they thought we were nice to them. So what else happened at that tailgate or the game?
I was introduced officially to Spotify music. I've been an Apple Music person forever, and my daughter's been making fun of me, so I dropped Apple Music and changed over to Spotify.
Yeah,
That's a historic moment.
historic event.
Yes,
There's been a lot of dropping and changing. If anybody happened to see my story, I'm not going to call it a rant, but it was a story about my phone call with Spectrum. But anyway, all right. So that was a great tailgate. What about Florida State? Now, obviously, that was on the road. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to tell my story. So, like I say, we've been operating with no Wi-Fi and using a hotspot, and for up until just a couple of days ago, to get any kind of cell signal in my house, we had to either go outside or go upstairs. So we turned our loft into like an indoor tailgate. It's a small loft area, and we don't have any furniture other than just, something to put knickknacks on and that kind of thing, a hope chest and whatnot. So I pulled a TV from Jillian's room and put it out there. And we brought chairs from the garage that we used to tailgate. And there we went, sat there and watched Clemson beat Florida State. What did you do that weekend, Bailey?
I watched it right here in the man cave.
There you go. So fun fans are going to find a way, right?
Yeah, well, we can watch the game.
So, and speaking of the game, so we beat Florida State at Florida State, and the Florida State reading guy, the book guy, whatever they call him, with no shirt, once they had emptied the stands before the game was even over, made another appearance. So,
yeah, well, they're on the lookout for him now. But hey, Florida State was really good. Florida State has dudes that can play. Okay,
without a doubt.
And the strength of their team is red zone defense, because they basically the week before had shut Cal down in the red zone, and then they kind of did the same thing to Clemson. Honestly.
Kept us to field goals.
Well, we have a great field goal kicker.
Thank goodness.
Yes.
Thank goodness.
That kid's for real. And so yeah, it was kind of boring.
Right.
But it was just a good old fashioned butt whooping, because Clemson dominated.
I think we did talk a little bit about the game last week, and we always get everybody's A game, and that was nothing new. And even though Florida State's A game this year is not what it normally is, I think that was the best they've played all season. And not to knock DJ, but the quarterback, he was good.
He threw some good balls.
He took a little bit to get going, I think, but he played he played about a good second half as any half of football a lot of quarterbacks play. So, but we got another dub for the Tigers, so that was awesome. And then of course yesterday, Bailey makes the trip to Wake Forest with the Tigers. Got a picture there with the Demon Deacon.
I told my man, I said, "You want to be on a podcast tomorrow night? Come on over here and give me a hug."
So without a doubt. All right. So tell us about that trip.
Oh, hey, from our house to Wake Forest is quicker than getting from my house to Clemson University.
Oh, really?
Okay. And it's a wonderful drive. It's not, there's no construction.
No,
there's no little walls right beside you on the interstate. And it's just straight up and straight across. And you pay $30 to park at the basketball arena, which is literally, we probably walked, I don't know, quarter mile to get to the stands, where we went in one of 3 gates on the home side, and went in gate 2 and sat in section 1, and we went up to row ZZ, and we had great seats, because it's just, there's not a bad seat in that place. The only thing I would wish I'd done was buy a seat in section 2, because it was in the shade all day.
Wow.
Yeah, that would have made life better. But
so sunshine, it was warm where I was. We'll talk about that in a second. But it was warm in the sunshine, but the shade was nice.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like hot. It was warm.
Yeah.
But we, Clemson, probably 50-50 Clemson fans to Wake fans.
Mm-hmm.
The whole other side of the stadium where Clemson was sitting was all orange, except for the student section. And that was empty after halftime. So, it was a good trip. I wish we could pay $30 and park right beside the stadium.
Right.
The earlier you get there, the better your parking place is.
So, well, very good. And do they still have their Porta Johns numbered?
They do, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, in case you get lost.
No sense in messing up that system. All right.
But
So
as far as the game goes,
yeah. So yeah, tell us about the game. You were there.
slow start.
Yep.
But look, we know Wake Forest offense always gives us a little bit of trouble. You know,
Wake
they
Forest,
hold the.
it's aggravating.
They hold the ball. They hold the ball. I mean, and there were a couple times even my wife goes, "What's going on? Who's got the ball?" Well,
Like the
I
play's
said,
dead.
that's what they're trying to do. I mean, it puts a lot of pressure on the defense, but once the second, and then Cade missed one or two throws early, but if he'd hit Stellato across the middle and early in the game, he might still be running.
Right.
But the offense they made the right adjustments. They started running outside the tackles a little bit. They hit a bunch of passes downfield, middle of the field, which opened up everything. So it was, Clemson's offense. I don't think we need to worry about Garrett Riley, Cade Klubnik. Klubnik's on pace. He's on the same pace Trevor Lawrence was on.
Right.
The year he finished runner up in the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah.
So everybody can just calm down because that dude threw some serious laser beams yesterday in tight windows.
We're talking relative here. Okay. I am talking comparison. So like the best you can, almost 100% game 2 in a row with talking about NC State and App State at home. Stanford was great as well. And then going on the road, Florida State, and the first quarter of Wake made me think we're okay. We got a little bit of on the road mentality or something that's not going to be good. That'll be our struggle this season or whatever. And maybe it was, but at Wake Forest, it only lasted a quarter for sure. We got our groove, and it was on like Donkey Kong for sure. So I mean, and
even when they scored, all right. First of all, we had 2 interceptions.
That was
in
great.
The second, they scored 20. We scored 28 points in the second
quarter.
And 2 interceptions were huge. But then they could not. Wake Forest was not slowing us down.
Mm-mm.
And even though they scored to make it 21-14 or whatever it was, we did. What does Clemson do? Goes right back down the field and scores again.
Yeah, literally. After the first quarter, they couldn't stop us. It was just a matter of us doing whatever. And you're right. Their offense is frustrating. It's aggravating. It's aggravating to watch. It's got to be aggravating to defend. Is that like an RPO where you stick it in his gut?
I mean, they've done it for years.
And so that's
and their running back's really good.
Oh, he was hard to tackle. You could tell he was hard to bring down.
But it is just it's because the linemen never get downfield, and so I don't know how you teach them to do that, but they do.
And they all end up in a big old pile of huddle or grabbing and stuff, and then you never know. A lot of times, especially really all the years past, they've done that. Boom! Here come the running back, come out of that little pile. But definitely ended up being all's well that ends well, and that's the most important part. And the final score was a lot to a little, for sure. So but my experience yesterday, just to tell the fans. I watched the game on my phone while I was taking a tour of the University of South Carolina. It was yeah. So you seen that?
Why?
You seen the Ace Ventura 2 where he walks into the room where they've got all the heads on the wall, and he's like, that was me at the bookstore at South Carolina. So now Grayson, she's a senior, and we went and toured, and it was the obligatory tour, but maybe it wasn't the obligatory tour. I don't know. We will see. Fortunately and unfortunately, I guess, it's a good school, and they actually offer what she wants to major in versus Clemson offering something that she could take to get her where she wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how that's going to happen. Clemson needs to maybe get it together. And I will give – so I did this 7 years ago with my oldest, and I'm going to give the University of South Carolina a little bit of credit. They've given themselves a facelift from the buildings and the residence halls and that kind of thing. It looked a lot nicer than 7 years ago. It's still in downtown Columbia. And so I wouldn't go there still, but it's way nicer than it was 7 years ago.
Well, I'll tell you a quick story. When we were at App State visiting, after I was still kind of spinning with the sticker shock of out-of-state tuition costs. But we were talking to the director of the business, the business department, because
Right.
my son is really interested in international business. Well, this guy had graduated from the University of South Carolina because they have an outstanding international business program.
Yes, they do.
And he said, South Carolina also has a wonderful international business program. And my son looks at him, and I've never been this proud. He said, "It's not happening."
You go, Whit. Whit needs to talk to Grayson, but no, it's
raised him to be smart enough not to make that decision.
Yeah. So it was interesting, and it was a good visit, and it was a good day. I watched the second half on my phone while we were going and getting something to eat. So, and that was easy, but it was interesting to be on that tour, and I'm sitting there holding my phone, which I was listening, and I've been on the tour before. So
right.
That was I wasn't yelling.
I'm proud of you. You went.
Yeah, I went for sure. So, hey, fun fans, we're going to watch the game. We're going to watch the game, hell or high water. So, all right. So, speaking of watching the game, back to.
Let me just say this real quick.
All right, let's hear it.
I did not watch the fourth quarter of the game because from all the home games and this past weekend's game, I haven't seen the end of the game because we've been up so much.
Yeah.
Which is incredible. All right.
It is.
We love beating the traffic.
Anyway. Yeah. So, yeah, at the game. So, I wasn't paying the fourth quarter that much attention because I started giving the South Carolina-Alabama game some more attention, and we'll talk about that in a second. But back sticking with the Tigers and getting ready for this coming Saturday, playing Virginia. They're 4-2, 2-1 in the conference. We're going to play one of our former coaches. It's a noon kickoff.
And a couple players.
It's supposed to be some real football weather. So that should be fun now. And as far as the menu, it's another one of these early games. I was thinking about making a pot of grits, so I can make the grits at the tailgate, and then it would be hot. And then if there was some cheese or some other whatever, if somebody wanted to make a breakfast bowl or something, then and it would be hot without having to heat up anything except the grits. I don't know. How's that sound?
I love grits.
Yeah, grits are good. And put enough cheese in there, it'd be Clemson grits and turn orange.
Yeah, it's not going to keep very well, like sit around for people to come by and get some. But I love grits. Yep. So I did think about that, and I looked a little bit today. Everybody's got what I would call very difficult stretches left.
Yes.
I think Louisville at home, at Virginia Tech, and at Pitt, that is a critical 2-game stretch for the Clemson Tigers.
Yes.
Because it's going to be Lane Stadium. It's probably going to be at night, or they're going to want it to be at night. And then at Pitt's turning out to be really good on defense, really good. Especially. And we didn't. If you remember last time Clemson went to Pitt, that didn't work out so good.
Nope.
So, yeah, chances of them being tied are not great, but at the same time, it could happen. So we have the tiebreaker, right, James?
Yes, we did. Well, now this is from 2023 Sports Illustrated, and I know you can't see it, but I'm going to read it real quick. It just made me curious. What would the tiebreaker be? And it says, in the case of a 2-team tie for the second best winning percentage, of course, it could be the first best, whatever, I guess. The first move obviously is head to head, and we've already established that hypothetically the 3 we're talking about right now don't play each other. And then it goes to the next determinant is the winning percentage against all common opponents. So if you're looking at just 2 teams, I guess you maybe look at all 3 teams together, you would pull their common opponents and see the winning percentage. Well, let's stick with the hypothetical that we have right now.
They're all undefeated.
Okay, so there goes that one. So after that, then it goes to moves to a win percentage against common opponents with the added caveat of order of finish in the conference, beginning with a high-seeded common opponent. The fourth step is to factor in the combined winning percentage of a team's conference opponent, with the team who faced the better opponents getting the advantage. So it turns into, if
They put a
everybody's
point
undefeated,
system. Yeah.
well, if everybody's undefeated, it turns into you take all of your whoever you played and their winning percentage combined versus we'll use
Right.
Miami and then SMU. So it turns into,
Well, it would be who you it would be the teams that you beat, where they finished in the ACC, and they would almost be given a point value.
yeah.
And so then you add up all those points, and the team with the highest points would get the tiebreaker.
Yeah. So that's it. That would be interesting if it came down to something like that. But like Bailey says, Clemson's in the, I'm going to say Clemson's in the driver's seat because not only undefeated, I think Miami only has 2 or 3 conference games. They're undefeated, but they've only played 2 or 3.
Yeah, the more you play, the more chances you have to lose.
Yeah, yeah. So Clemson has played more, and not only that, they're still undefeated. But big game against Virginia because they only have 1 loss. Pitt, when that comes around, they likely will only still have 1 loss. So a lot of big games still coming up for the Tigers, and hopefully somebody will knock off Miami and SMU just for the fun of it. And you know what it takes to finish a long season in college football nowadays?
Man, you got to have some energy.
You got to have some energy. Go to w.gg and enter promo code FUNFANS for 10% off of your Jitterless energy drink, and it can be this Grandpa's denture water. They sent out an email saying that it caused some, quote unquote controversy because people were talking about what? It's the same thing we did, but anyway, they say it's great. Promo code FUNFANS at w.gg. All right, so let's talk about some other games real quick. So we have about 7 or 8 minutes left.
Miami is actually at Louisville this weekend, so that's a big one for them.
That's a big one.
And then they play Syracuse at Syracuse the last week of the season.
Syracuse is playing well.
Yes.
Yep, they're playing well.
All
so
right.
last week was the week of upsets. Bama got beat by Vandy. The SEC short video is awesome. If you hadn't seen that, go to YouTube and find it. Those things are great. And, a lot of other teams, Clemson kind of got into, we admit Clemson got into the top 10 because like 3 or 4 other teams in the top 10 lost. But whatever. So this week was a week of overtime. It was a lot of close games. There were 4. This was tied for the most overtime games since they started overtime, which was 4 games of top 25 teams in 1 week, or top 25, that any top 25 team was involved in. So you remember when there was no overtime, Bailey? You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
Let's just play it for a tie.
Yeah.
Who wants to do that?
That was not a fun fan experience back in the day. So we talked about college football now with the portal and the NIL and blah, 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 maybe having more parity. Do you think that's what it is? The upsets and the overtime stuff? Is it more parity, or is it just another example of these early season and preseason polls are a waste of time, or a combination of both?
I think we've talked about this. Teams like Vanderbilt can go out and get a few guys that they normally wouldn't get immediately out of high school.
Yep.
And they can plug them in. But I don't know did I mention this last week? There are 4 schools that have no transfers.
Yep. Well, no, you didn't. Who are they? One's Clemson.
Clemson. How about, wait a minute. First of all, 3 of them are a combined 15-1 overall record.
Wow.
All right, so you have Clemson ranked number 10, that's 5-1. You have Army ranked number 23, is 5-0. Navy's ranked 25, they're 5-0, and then Air Force. So are people mad about Dabo not using the portal, or are they mad about Dabo winning without using the portal?
Right. Everybody hates, for some reason, everybody hates Dabo, no matter what.
I don't.
Right. Well, outside of Clemson.
The last time Wake Forest beat Clemson was the game before Dabo took over. Thursday night in Winston-Salem. The last game Tommy Bowden coached.
And that's been on like Donkey Kong since.
And the rest is history, as they say. So I would say, yes, these teams that are competing now at a higher level have brought in guys that help them compete at a higher level.
And makes for I'm going to say a much better fan experience for you just sit there and watch a game that you may or may not have some interest in. And it's an unbelievably good game, even though, in years past, Alabama and Vanderbilt may not have been such a good game. So, so that's a good thing. I like the other thing is the conference expansion. This past weekend looked like New Year's Day with it looked like 2 Rose Bowls with Oregon playing Ohio State and Penn State playing Southern Cal. And those were good games. And so the conference
Penn State, I don't know how they ended up winning.
They were getting Southern Cal choked. Yeah, Southern Cal. I think they choked. Oregon, I think if Oregon had to play Ohio State on the road or at a neutral site, I think they would lose 9 out of 10. Yep. But they definitely pulled that one off at home. But they're a good team now. Those were 2 good teams playing football against each other. And I think it's turned into a good thing for the fan, the conference expansion, I'm going to say. But thank goodness for the 12-team playoff, because you wouldn't want that to be like in the good old days. You lose that game and you might be done. You're done, and you're probably one of the top teams in the country. So I think it's a good thing got paired with the 12-team playoff. So anything else about yesterday's games?
Just feel bad for my Gamecocks, all my Gamecock friends.
I'm gonna ask the question: Are the Gamecocks the best 3-3 team in the country?
I think they're one of them for sure. They're probably a top 25 team, no doubt, but they cannot seem to get over the hump. The thing that scares me, and you can say I said it on this show on Sunday, October 13th, is that they play better on the road than they do at home.
Yes.
For the most part. And they venture down to Clemson.
Yes.
In late November. So
whatever maybe they won't do when they travel if they only have to go to the upstate, but they're a good looking team, and they make some mistakes. They had control and could have beat Alabama and then fumbled. You never know, but then they still hit some miracle things, getting that pass and then the onside kick type stuff. So
yeah.
They know what they're doing and they're playing good football, but just not quite good. They should have beat LSU.
It's like that insurance commercial where that guy's got the fishing rod with the dollar bill. He goes, "Ooh, thought you had it. Ooh, thought you had it."
Yeah. So I think I agree with you. I think they're a very good ball club, but their record, obviously, 500. So there you go. We'll see. They'll get some more W's. I would assume before it's all said and done, and definitely one of the teams for us to worry about at the end of the season. I think they're better than they were last year. So, all right. So we're about wrapping up here. Do we have an O's update? I don't, especially with no internet and no connection.
No,
I don't even know what's going on.
They're done.
I thought Major League Baseball's they're in the playoffs and stuff, right?
I don't want to talk about it.
Not the O's, but everybody else. Okay, so the O's are done, so we'll worry about the O's.
So let's briefly. I know we're running short on time, and we got
next season.
South Carolina has Oklahoma.
Yeah.
At Oklahoma, Texas A&M and Columbia, at Vanderbilt, Missouri at South Carolina, Wofford, and then at Clemson. So pick a game or two, they're going to win the rest of the way if they don't play. If they play like they did yesterday, they will win.
Yeah.
Several of them. But, anyway.
It's tough to keep that going. No, it's tough to keep that going, and they can beat Missouri for sure. They can beat Oklahoma. Speaking of Oklahoma real quick, in the SEC, we'll talk about it later. All right, little teaser for what's happening with the other part of conference expansion next week. So, yep, that's going to about wrap it up. Let's make a quick announcement real quick. Our friend, all right, and 2-time podcast guest, ACC legend and former Clemson point guard Grayson Marshall had emergency heart surgery a few days ago, literally like as the hurricane, he's in Jacksonville, and it was as Hurricane Milton was coming through or had just went through Florida. So that surgery turned out really well from what I heard. And so our thoughts and prayers go out to him and his family. And there's going to be some ways to send love to him. And that's going to go on our social media. There's a Facebook page, and then there's some other stuff coming out. So if you find our Facebook page, you'll be able to tie into that. So please tie in and be able to show your love to Grayson, whether it's just verbally or financially, maybe. And we are glad to hear that turned out okay. Look for all that stuff tomorrow. I'm gonna cut off the hotspot, and then when I get some Wi-Fi at work tomorrow, upload a few things. So all that'll be done tomorrow until Sunday night right now. So by Monday, it might be Monday afternoon, but it'll get done. But thoughts and prayers to Grayson. We're glad that turned out all right there, Grayson. And hope you enjoyed the show. Looking forward to some real football weather next Saturday with the tailgate. Thoughts and prayers to everyone affected by both hurricanes here in the Southeast. And we appreciate you checking us out. Bailey, got anything else for the fun fans?
No. I hope everybody has a great week. Go Tigers.
All right. Thanks for checking us out each and every Sunday. Don't forget to click subscribe on the Fun Fans Podcast YouTube channel, as well as your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on social media and share. Please reach out to become a sponsor on behalf of the Fun Fans Podcast, J Thrill Entertainment, the Fanboys Fangirls Podcast Network, and Bailey Jackson.
We out.
Thanks for listening.